Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary for the Geek Pride cast on this Sunday evening. Tonight we have another guest with us, who I'll introduce last. But with me, as always, we have Jonjo Cosgrove.
Yo, hello everyone.
Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening.
And our special guest tonight, David Ault. Welcome, sir.
Hello there, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
You just found out literally about 5 seconds ago that this was live.
Yes, I did. Yes, because I listened back to Erica's conversation that you had on your website, and I thought, okay, yeah, this sounds good. And I had no idea about the extra streaming sections that were bolted onto the side.
It's all live. So basically, things happen, things go wrong, stuff.
You are live on the Geek Pride cast.
Yeah,
Please do not swear.
Yes, you're more than welcome to swear away if you should so please.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter.
I think a lot of swearing is going to be at me now because I should have made it clear. So yes, we are live.
It's all right. It's we're people come and stream in and out and stuff. So it's a Sunday night. So
it is.
It's a Sunday night. So it's okay. Yeah. Okay. So David, for everybody who doesn't know who you are, can you explain what you do? What's your thing?
Right. So what do I do? It's one of those questions that my family has been tormented with over the past 20 years because no one really knows what I do, not even me. But for the most part, I do a lot of voice acting, narration, voiceovers, as well as various other things on the side, some of which have been slightly curtailed by the fact that schools have been out for a lot of 2020. But there we go. That's 2020. But yes, so I'm here because you had the wonderful Erica Sanderson on a couple of weeks ago, and she name dropped me. So Jonjo said, "Oh well, let's get this random guy on." So here I am. In fact, what I'm not telling you is that actually I am Erica Sanderson. I'm just this good at voices, and I've got that good makeup to be able to make it look as if I'm David Ault. But there we go. But she is a phenomenal voice actress, as you know.
Oh yeah, she was amazing. Absolutely pleasure to talk to.
She was actually teaching us some of her techniques that she learned for voice acting as well, which was
Just don't ask me to do a Russian grandmother because I don't think I'll be able to pull that one off.
What can you do? What's your thing? What's your go-to?
What's my go-to? Slightly uptight British man, slightly uptight posh British man, slightly uptight even posher British. Yeah, you get the idea.
I get a pattern.
Yeah, I get typecast a lot, and that's one of the things about having been in the voice acting game for quite a long time. So, in fact, it's coming up to about my 16th anniversary of doing voice acting, which it's a long time. I started in December 2004. So, as we were chatting before everything kicked off, and before I found out that this was live, thank you, Jonjo. I was born, and Sylvester McCoy was my doctor. Hence, why I'm wearing the Sylvester McCoy tank top here. And so I, when it ended, there was the long, excruciating wait for 1996 and Paul McGann, and then into the wilderness once again. Until along came Death Comes to Time on BBC I, as it was, the BBC website. So here was a Doctor Who audio drama with pictures, but it was a Doctor Who audio drama. An official Doctor Who audio drama. And I went looking for online on this new wonderful thing called the internet for any groups that were also doing Doctor Who audio dramas. I found a few of them. There was Back to Reality, which is an Australian one, and they were doing a few around that time, and various others. And I found one on a site called Darker Projects, which is it's still going. I did take over as the Doctor at one point. I am still technically the Doctor, but life and production issues have sort of got in the way of things. I'll move on from there. It's taken us about 12 years to get one 6-parter out. These things happen. But anyway, so found the darker projects and saw that they had a Doctor Who thing, but they also had ghost stories and the Night Terrors series and a Star Trek fan fiction as well called Star Trek: The Section 31 Files. They had open auditions for anyone who wanted to do stuff. I auditioned for a 2-line role. The first things that I said on an audio drama were slip drive engage, Captain. And from there, everything happened. It was using an old microphone and nothing quite as fancy as I have now. But yeah, that's what we were using, and that's how it all started, really. It was all thanks to the Doctor.
Well, like Sylvester McCoy was my doctor when I was growing up. I've never. I don't hate Doctor Who. It never clicked with me. I enjoyed the Sylvester McCoy stuff when I was growing up because I remember it, and I remember an episode quite vividly about like cats. It was something about like
survival.
Yeah, and I just sort of remember them that it was quite dark, and there was like they had a pet cat, and it got eaten, and like that's sort of like embossed in my head as like that was Doctor Who and stuff. But I never could get into it for some reason. I don't know why. I didn't hate it or anything. It just never. It's like I've never seen Firefly. Everybody bangs on about Firefly. I've never seen Firefly, and it's just one of those things. It's not like It's not like I don't want to watch it or anything. It's just I've never got around to it and never got into it, and it's
fair enough. I mean, I have this discussion with various people, but I've never seen the Muppets Christmas Carol, and apparently that's one of the best things out there. But I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
Oh, good.
There's loads of stuff, man. I've seen a lot of stuff, but there's some zingers where it's just like, I've not seen that. Yeah. So yeah, well, it's like my girlfriend. Because she's Polish, and she hasn't seen very much at all, so I've literally been going through the back catalogue of things and kind of going, have you seen this? I subjected her to Aliens once, and like she doesn't do horror films. She was freaking out.
Matt, we've got to talk about how you introduced Guzia to science fiction. Dropping her in at the deep end is not the way to go.
That is a bit of a baptism of acid.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, but it's just funny because like, thing is, she's not very good with horror films and stuff, and she gets sort of like, we were watching Modern Family the other day, and she freaked out at something. It was a Halloween special, but it was Modern Family, and she screamed at one part in that. So it's like she doesn't do horror in any way, shape, or form. But because she doesn't do horror, it's amazing to watch it with her, because she literally does the whole sort of like covers over her eyes thing, freaks out, starts screaming the house down and stuff.
You just want to do the protective boyfriend thing, don't you?
It's not even that. It's more cruel than that. It's just the sort of thing. It's like it's because she's so upset about it, and it takes the edge off it for me. So I'm sitting there like,
Does she listen to this, by the way?
She's upstairs, probably sort of eavesdropping at this moment in time. So
what's he saying about me now?
But she knows. She's just like, I said there on Halloween, I was like, you do know we're gonna have to watch a horror film. And she's like, no. And I was like, but it's Halloween, we got to watch a horror film. She's like, no. And then we watched, it was on Netflix. It's not Insidious. It is...
Conjuring?
What was it? What did you say?
Conjuring, was it watching?
No. It's basically about a series of murders and the houses these people are in. And it's basically to do with children. And there's like a monster that's sort of...
Oh, yes. That really
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo. At the end, they pull up like, but yeah. So we watched that, and we got like halfway through it, and it's not overly scary, but there is little bits. But there was one part in it where she just screamed, and my mate's dog just went flying across the room, and then she decided.
Was it the bit where he was looking at the at the pictures.
And they
And
move.
the thing, and it just moved and turned.
Yes, that's it. That's the part. What's the name of the film? What's the name of the
I
film?
thought that was Insidious.
Is it Insidious? I thought it was Insidious, but there's another one. Maybe it's called something else. I think Insidious is some. It's going to annoy me now. Anyway, it was that film, whatever it's called, but it was that. And it's like, so I have her beside me just because it takes the edge off any sort of horror films, because she just can't take them in any way, shape or form. That being said, she gets really, the one thing I love about her is she gets really into sort of like films in general. So we were watching, like, she's not seen like many films. So we were watching like The Last Samurai last night, and she was getting to the point where she, at the end battle, she was sort of getting up and pacing around the room and stuff, because she was like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen and things. And that was just like, I love that. I love somebody who gets so into a film that she's like, she's emotionally engaged, and basically, it's a good film if she's crying by the end of it.
I've got to say, my partner, she's all right with horror films, but the one thing I can't do is she likes watching a lot of these films that are like based on true stories, based on true events. One of our first dates was a film called Street Cat Named Bob. It's about the homeless guy who basically he adopts this cat that keeps following him around, and it helps him get over a drug addiction, helps him move on, get a music career going, gets a book deal, all this stuff. And as much as I can sit through some of the worst horror films, I can see some of the goriest stuff. I don't flinch. And I'm watching this and I'm almost like tearing up. I'm like, right, I've got to try and look impressive. Maybe 3 weeks into this, I can't show that kind of emotion yet, no. And then a couple of years ago, we watched this thing on Netflix. It's called I can't remember how it's pronounced, but it's like PIHU, something. It's a film about a young girl, like a 2-year-old girl. She's alone in this flat with her mum, but her mum has taken an overdose and basically died in the bed. But obviously the little girl, she's going around the house like everything's normal. So you see her like, she's pulling out all these toys. She's pulling out tablets from the cabinet. She's put the iron on, but has like walked away from the iron, so it's like burning through. And she makes a big puddle of water and the electric falls on it. And I was literally freaking out. I was like, what the fuck is this? and she turned around to me, no lie. She said, what did you think of that film? And I said, why did you make me watch that? It's terrible. I was a wreck. I couldn't believe that. And like I say, if it was like a horror film, that'd be a bit different. I'd be like, yeah, the fear is different. But watching this, I felt so much anxiety. I swear, I must have aged 10 years within that 2 hours. It was god awful, and I don't know how.
Tearjerkers get me. Like my missus is quite into those sort of films as well. Like, the first film we watched together was a street cat called Bob, and that was very, very sad but happy in its own way. Yeah, but yeah, I watched a Dog's Purpose. I've never cried so much in my entire life. Like, literally, I was sobbing throughout the entire thing. It's just not a joyful film. It's just like dogs dying over and over and over again, and you're like, why are you doing this to me? So I got to the point at the very end of the film, I went over to my dog and I just gave him a massive hug, and I was like, oh, please don't leave me.
It's amazing, ain't it? A group of like men in their certain age, we're like, we could watch a horror film. It's like, don't flinch. You see something like that, something that's a bit emotional. It's like, are you crying? No, leave me alone.
Animals do that to you, man. But it's like, if you have ever watched the Joe Rogan podcast and you watch the Kevin Smith and Joe Rogan one, where they're talking about their pets and they both break down into tears, man. It's mad. I was sitting there in work listening to it and trying not to cry myself, and like somebody came up to me, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Oh yeah, just something in the eye." We've got a message on Facebook. Actually, got a couple of messages. Last night we were playing Among Us, and the tagline was "Ding dong, the Trump is gone." So I forgot to change the title, and I had to just change it there. But we've got typical liberals saying, "You're fired, Trump." So yeah, I think apologies, it's the wrong thing. But then Rick says, once you're Rick Ward on Facebook says, if you're talking horror films, you need to talk about the criminally underrated Event Horizon, which is so underrated. It's super scary as well.
Fantastic design.
Yeah. An amazing film. I had super nightmares after that film for a very long time.
Yeah. It was basically Hellraiser meets Solaris, to be fair. It was very derivative, but it was very well done.
Yes. Having Sam Neill with his eyes gouged out just appear was...
He's just sort of holding them in his hand and stuff, isn't he? It's all those flashbacks, those not flashbacks, but those sort of bits where they see the sort of...
Yeah, I was speaking to Emily Booth last year at Sci-Fi Weekend literally this time last year in Great Yarmouth, and they were saying that they filmed a lot of those torture scenes. But all of the kind of main cast were banned. It was a closed set. But apparently some of the actors were trying to get on because, as they said, all those guys were having loads of fun. They want to get in on the action. And because they had adult performers and disabled people to kind of simulate the severing of limbs. And basically just make it that much more graphic and believable. And yeah, but because of the age ratings, they had to cut it right back down, just so it was just single glimpses. But there was a lot of material that was excised and stored, and then unfortunately they finally found all the archive footage, but it had been corroded because it had been stored in a salt mine.
Oh no!
So so there's been continuous talks about kind of getting a special edition or director's cut of Event Horizon released, but just with the original core material has just been disintegrated to the point of being useless, so they can't do anything with it. Which that's a shame as well, because Paul Anderson, the director, would be massively up for it.
I think this is, but we've seen it now with certain films where they do film. I know Event Horizon's 24 years ago now.
Yeah.
But we have seen where some films do get continuations. They do seem to get a follow-up, or they get added material so many years later.
Star Wars,
for example,
New Hope.
Yes.
How many different versions?
We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to get into this conversation.
But another example is Justice League. They're filming new material for that as we speak for their Snyder Cut, which is an interesting prospect. It might still be bad. Who knows? I didn't hate Justice League. I just, there was a lot of potential. It was disappointing.
It was disappointing. Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad by any means. It was just disappointing.
Yeah,
I think there's so much good stuff out there that just being good is no longer good enough because there's so much excellent and quality material out there to enjoy.
Yeah, well, it's just they rushed. DC just rushed it. They should have just sort of kind of gone, look, we're not going to be able to catch up with Marvel at this moment in time, so let's just slowly bring our own out, and then it will get there. So they should have done what Marvel did, but they didn't, and they rushed it all. And you had some amazing characters who were just badly written, and it's just and it showed, unfortunately.
But that's a good point, obviously. So we're not going to mention any more about the galaxy far, far away. But David, are you into your superheroes? Do you enjoy?
Not, I'm afraid.
No,
I'm not. I remember Superman with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher.
Wow,
I mean, that's the Superman
that's
I
enough
know.
to put you off, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I used to love that. I used to really enjoy that.
No, it was cheesy though. It was cheesy, but then
Oh yeah, of course it was cheesy, but I was a teenager, so it was okay.
It was on sort of at the same time. There was another series called Due South. It was that and Due South and was it Lois and Clark? Was it called Lois and Clark?
Adventures of Lois and Clark.
Yeah, Lois and Clark. Yeah. And I that was a Saturday night for my family. Watching those. Yeah.
And for me, the only Batman worth talking about is Michael Keaton.
Well, he might be back. He might be. Oh, he
is
back.
Oh,
he's going to be in the I'm pretty sure it's confirmed, but he's going to be in the Flash film, isn't he?
Yes.
As Batman.
As Batman, yeah, because
cool.
Because it's Flashpoint, so it's basically different timelines. So he's going to be in it as Michael Keaton. So, well, as Batman, his Michael Keaton version of Batman. So, yeah.
I do hope they kind of go for the full-on Dark Knight Returns comic book style, which is basically this aged Bruce Wayne kind of coming back into being the Batman again after 25 years, and he's just like there, he's all this crotchety, and he's just going. And so yeah, they could really do that with Michael Keaton, given his age.
Yeah. And he'll just be rattling around Wayne Manor saying, I still don't know why I have tables this big in a dining room. I don't think I've been in this one either before.
But then, okay, so you're not Star Wars, you're not superhero fan. David, if you were going to have a movie night, what would be, let's say 3 films, what would be the 3 films that would have to be on your must-watch list?
Ooh, crikey. Chat amongst yourselves while I think about this one.
I'm currently just obsessed about what's underneath the blanket to your right there.
Yes, this here.
I'm just like, what is it? What is it? What is it?
Well, this is my cupboard. This is my wardrobe, and this is where I do my recording. So there's basically like shirts and things under here.
Right, okay.
That's all it is.
I thought it was hiding something.
It's as if I sort of intuited that this was going to be going out live on video, because usually I have a big shield here and a pop shield here, but I thought, no, I'll make it so that I can actually talk to people a little bit more directly. And I'll put this on as well. So I think I probably intuited that this was going out live so that you could actually see me. But yes, this is my wardrobe. It's my recording booth. I don't quite have anything quite as fancy as Erica, but yes, this is clothes, and there's a pillow up here. And in fact, when I do the No Sleep live streams, this is called my magical tea window, because I generally just reach up and get a cup of tea down, and people are weirded out by the perspective. But it's currently water in a hobgoblin glass. So
it's not really a wardrobe; it's a TARDIS. That's what it is.
Exactly. Yes. and I think Mr. Tumnus is waiting for me at the back there. So I know what I'll be doing later. So what would be my 3 films? It's such a difficult question, because I have a good memory for endings and a bad memory for what comes in the middle of stuff, and B, I will probably forget a whole load of films that I really, really enjoy. But if one that springs to mind, which is going to be a cheesy starter, just to get everyone in the mood, Sister Act.
Oh, that's a good film. I like Sister Act.
It's very catchy, and it's a really feel good film. It's got everything. It's got Whoopi Goldberg and singing nuns and everything. So yeah, that would be a good start. I did like Interstellar.
Yeah, it's a good film.
As a film, especially for its large amount of science that I was going through it, and I was thinking, okay, that is actually much better science than most.
Have you ever watched Red Planet?
I have not.
That is a film that claimed to be scientifically accurate, but in reality, laughable. Basically, NASA walked away from it.
Oh dear.
Then because the doctors were making so many decisions, like, oh, we'll do this, and they're going, you can't do that. We need it for the film. Goodbye.
Yes. When you have a tension between what is actually possible and what just looks good, then you know that in the film world, what looks good is going to win out.
Have you seen Contact with Jodie Foster?
No, that's another one that I haven't got round to seeing.
That had that famous mathematician, Carl Sagan. Sagan involved, and it is actually very accurate, because how you would communicate with another alien species is based on the fundamental principles of the universe, mathematics.
Yes, exactly.
you have a master's in astrophysics.
This is true. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm assuming the science behind things is really important to you. It's like, because I've got a history degree, so history's a massive thing for me. Are you the sort of guy who watches something and go, that'll never happen, there's no way that's right?
I might have done on more than one occasion. Yes. So it's so funny whenever anyone needs to show that they are sciencey on a film or on a TV program, then you see the massive formulae on a whiteboard or on a clear bit of perspex behind them, and I'm just looking at it going, why have you written that up there? That makes no sense. Why have you written the formula for the area of a circle, and then some Newtonian or non-Newtonian fluid dynamic equations? Why? Oh, it looks. Oh. Of course, you're a scientist. You're a genius, aren't you? Excellent.
Are you talking about Big Bang Theory by any chance?
I have not seen Big Bang Theory. In fact, what I recently rewatched was Planet of the Dead. Right. David Tennant did the David Tennant, and there was Lee Evans being, what was his name? Harold?
Malcolm.
He was
yes.
Malcolm. And yes, all of the scientific talk there and all of his equations on the wall. Oh dear. Oh dear.
I heard something that there were quite a few science advisors for the Big Bang Theory, so that all the equations that they do write up are actually genuine.
Well, the actress that played Amy Farrah Fowler.
She's got a doctorate, doesn't she? In,
neuroscience.
She also played Blossom, which blew my mind. Blew my mind because I was like, I grew up in Blossom, and I was like, holy shit, that's Blossom.
It's fine having the equations there, but if they're not meant to, if the context isn't, then it's just window dressing.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's like having any books in a politician's Zoom video link. No, you know that they're just there to make them look more intelligent, even though they're going to be talking out of their asshole. But
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have a massive thing about history programs and history films and stuff, and I understand there has to be a sort of, you have to tell a story, and there's certain things you're not going to get. But when they completely bastardize history, it gives me rage. I'm just like, what? Why?
Yeah, I come from a background in engineering. I worked in engineering 15 years. I've been writing about science and technology for 5 years for the BBC and Computer Weekly. And the number of times I've had my eyes covered and going, no, this is not happening. You do not do that.
Exactly. Or if you walk into a lab, then you've got to have some bubbling flasks and things over a Bunsen burner. It's just one of the things that is necessary to show that you are a scientist.
It's like I thought that was a prerequisite. I thought when you sort of you did your masters, that they sort of give you a Bunsen burner and a beaker, and then went, the blue liquid has to be in this at all times. And
yes, in fact, they surgically stitch on the leather patches on the elbows, as you can see. So yeah, and they give you glasses even if you don't need them. So
and an infinite supply of dry ice for effects and stuff.
Exactly. So yes, it does. It is a bit of a bugbear of you're a scientist. That must mean ... It's like saying, oh, you've got a degree in history, so you studied the interwar years. That must mean that you know everything about the Battle of Hastings. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I have a degree in astrophysics, 2 degrees in astrophysics. But so why would I have a particular view on plant dynamics?
Yeah.
Well, you're a scientist, obviously. I've done voice acting for the last 15 years.
So what? Yeah, that's the next question. So was astrophysics you see, astrophysics to voice acting, was astrophysics something that what you planned to do something with, or was it something you enjoyed, and then you sort of fell into voice acting, or was it sort of kind of the vice versa?
So I've always tried to keep a foot in both camps. When I went to university, I started off doing maths. So my first 2 years were maths, and then I was finding that to be a little bit too. It wasn't as practical as it could have been.
Yeah.
So the reason why I swapped to astrophysics as a third-year option was because A, it was only available as a third-year option, and B, it allowed me to use the maths that I'd been learning for the previous 15 years or whatever in a practical form that actually made sense to me. So yes, I wasn't going to go on any amazing archaeology field trips or visits to my field trip as an astrophysicist was to go to Ryman's to get some more pencils and some paper. But because much as I would have loved to have gone up and prodded another galaxy, it just doesn't happen. Or we didn't quite have the funding back at the beginning of the noughties, but there we go. So yeah, I always loved space. I always loved the idea of time travel for obvious reasons. Space travel, time travel, all of that. And I did my third year at university. Then I went off to Jodrell Bank and did my master's there. Yeah.
Oh, I do like Jodrell Bank.
Yes, the Pharos project.
Yeah.
Yes, so did my master's there. That was a really wonderful time. While I was there, it wasn't while I was there, but after I left there, that's when we started the Jodcast, which is the Jodrell Bank Astronomy podcast.
Ooh.
Started on the 1st of January 2006 and is still going.
Holy
wow.
shit. Wow, mad.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
That's going to be one of the first podcasts. Podcasts haven't been going that long. You're going to be a forerunner right there.
Yes, it sort of makes me a pod grandfather or something like
a
that.
progenitor.
The podfather.
Yes, yes, not quite a podfather. It's gone too many generations now. So yeah, started that in 2006. In the same year, I also started another astronomy podcast, but that only lasted a couple of years, because it was at that point that I started working at the planetarium in Birmingham, which was kind of a good fusion of astronomy and acting, showing off, basically. I had done a lot of acting whilst I was at university. Various things, including 2 weeks before my finals, I did the Late Show, which was at 11 o'clock at night for an hour. I didn't tell my parents I was doing that 2 weeks before my finals for obvious reasons. Then upon finishing at the planetarium, that's when I decided to go to drama school, because why not? Spent 2 years at drama school. And then decided I don't need to do a third year. And so I was looking around to see what I should do. I was down in London. What should I do? So throughout that time, I'd been doing tutoring to try and get some money to pay the rent, etc. And so I thought, well, okay, if I'm going to be an actor, if I'm serious about being an actor, then I need to find a space to live in London. I looked around and I found this really nice place. It was right at the top end of my budget, but I thought, no, I could do it. They had business grade broadband, they had board games, they had cats. It was everything that I could possibly want. Oh no, sorry, I've got to take a couple of steps back. So in that summer, I found there was a job advertisement saying, come and be a presenter for our science and technology shows, which will be going around the country for teenagers, whiz bang, all the amazing stuff. Come along and come along and have be one of our presenters. So I went for the audition. It was up in Manchester. Went for the audition, and they seemed to be impressed. And I got an email saying, okay, you're down to the last two, but we'll let you know. So, okay. So keep my fingers crossed. And I waited and I waited. And I was waiting so long that this is when I decided to start looking for places. And I found this wonderful, wonderful place. Just as I was about to sign the paperwork to say, yes, okay, you can do your background checks and everything on me, I got an email back from that job saying, okay, you start next Monday morning in Bristol.
Awesome.
Bristol. Okay, right, fine. So I then had to say no to the flat, because obviously I can't hold down a flat at the top end of the budget and be in Bristol and traveling around the country. So said goodbye to that. And then over the weekend, that's when the big crash of 2008 happened.
Oh, no.
So I had an email on the Monday morning saying, right, unless you can find 250 grand in the next 48 hours, this tour isn't happening.
Oh,
wow.
ouch.
And when I got back to the flat, they had already let it out to someone else.
No.
So it's like, no, this wonderful job and this wonderful flat, it's all gone. It's all gone. No, can't. So I was sort of left wondering what to do. And at this point, an email dropped into my inbox saying, would you like to go to India for 6 months and perform Shakespeare? I thought, well, might as well give it a try. And it just so happened that the director was looking for A, a man, which I happen to be, and B, a cellist, which I also happen to be. So those two meant that it was the audition was a little bit more of a formality, I think, than possibly. But the long story short, 2 weeks later, I was in India, and I was there from the very end of September right the way through to the end of March, and it was amazing.
You're like a mixture of Raj and Leonard from Big Bang Theory. Seriously, man, if you've never watched it, you need to, because it's just like it's you. There's two things I need to talk to you about. One's, and I believe they're going to sort of kind of go off in different directions, but
that's fine. I'm used to that.
You talked about sort of board games and stuff, so I'm a massive board game sort of guy. What sort of board games are you into?
I will do everything from Scrabble and Monopoly through to one of my favorites has to be House on Haunted Hill.
All right.
Betrayal at House on a Hill.
Yes, that. That's a fantastic game.
It is wonderful. I've got the expansion as well, but I haven't had a chance.
Oh, The Widow's Walk.
Yeah.
That is very well done, that expansion.
Excellent. I look forward to playing it at some point, but yeah. So
yeah, if you like Betrayal, then you also probably like Mansions of Madness.
I've seen that at HorrorCon when we've been there with the No Sleep podcast. Mansions of Madness has been there's been a company selling a lot of those. Yeah,
you get the chance to do it. It's basically very similar. You lay out the tiles and you explore. And if you ever played Call of Cthulhu, the role-playing game, it's basically a tabletop version of that.
Okay, right. Yeah, that sounds good. I love Betrayal simply for the fact that it is completely cooperative for that first bit, and you just don't know who the traitor's going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazingly well done. I love it. Every time I played it.
Have you ever played a card game called The Resistance?
I think I have once, and very briefly, but yes,
yeah,
I think so. Yes,
it's a similar sort of mechanic where that you all get handed cards. A couple of you are infiltrators who are infiltrating the government, and the other ones are government forces, and you've got to sort of basically sabotage missions without getting caught, and it causes so many fights. It's so some of my friends nearly got divorced over it at one point in time. Like they were getting so annoyed with each other because they were like, "You're lying to me." And the problem is because the game it changes, it randomizes every turn. It doesn't matter. So people still hold the grudge from the last turn. So they're all like, "You lied to me the last turn." I said, "Yeah, but it's a completely different game." And it was just like my mate and his wife now were like, yeah, they were just getting so annoyed with each other. Oh dear. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, second thing then, time travel. Oh, time travel. That's a wormhole that we definitely want to go down.
Okay, I have to ask. Is time travel possible?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the standard answer. Yes and no. In fact, it was 20 years ago, I did do a little project on the various types of time travel and the various ways that people have tried to explain how everything works. I don't suppose you remember Crime Traveler? Which was what's her face? Yeah, it was him from EastEnders, and what's her face who was
Ross Kemp?
Not Ross Kemp. And she played Kachansky in series 7 and 8 of Red Dwarf.
Chloe Annette.
Chloe Annette, yes, it was her and so on. But the way they did time travel was that whenever you do time travel, it's only a certain amount of time backwards from the point when you travel, and it has to form a closed loop. And so you are already part of events from the time that you decide to use the time machine. Okay, so there you go. So that's one of them. There's another one which will be time travel is essentially going back along the multiverse decision tree and then going along another branch.
Yeah.
Which again, that works. That's fine.
Would that be time travel though? Because you would be creating an alternative.
Or are you creating the alternative dimension, or are you merely discovering it?
That's the multiverse stuff. I love it, but it boggles my mind. I'm just like, what?
It's the fact that there are infinite possibilities happening every infinitesimal part of a second. So you're basically getting uncountable numbers of infinities. Yes, every second. It's a lot. Where do you put them all? You need some sort of infinitely multi-dimensional pocket to put them in. And I just happen to have one right here.
It's got the bag of holding.
You wondered what was underneath the blanket.
Don't under the blanket. I saw I watched the documentary, and maybe that's what you were talking about in the first instance, where it's a closed loop. But you can only time travel if you were to spin a black hole. You could, in theory, time travel, but you could only travel back to the point where the black hole spun. Okay,
so yes. Time travel using black holes is not advisable unless you are able to withstand quite a lot of gravitational force and quite a lot of radiation. Other than that, we're all good. So when a black hole is spinning, then technically, yes, it is possible to time travel. It is possible to get a wormhole as well.
Oh, no. Excuse me, everybody. OBS has done its spaz out thing. Back to our regular program. Very short.
Time-like, so that your future is not any longer directed at a point in time. It is directed at a point in space, that being the center of the black hole. So essentially, you can move as you would normally in space in time, but space-wise, you can only get closer and closer and closer to the center of the black hole.
Yeah, basically, subjectively, your time, as far as you're concerned, does not change. But from people that are outside the event horizon, their perception of time will be different to yours.
Well, they wouldn't even be able to see you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but they will experience time differently to you.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So let us say that you have managed to to avoid being crushed, strung out, spaghettified, fried, heated beyond all measure. And you are in your infinitesimally small spaceship, because it needs to be infinitesimally small, which is heading towards the singularity. And there is an infinitesimally thin ring around the singularity, which if you hit dead on, then you will be able to go through that wormhole and end up in the center of another black hole. That's how wormholes work. They will take you to the center of another black hole.
Did you ever watch the episode of Red Dwarf where they had a black hole and a white hole?
Yes. Yes.
That I found was like, I mean, Red Dwarf was as you know, like a comedy purely, but they did have some solid science concept buried as a foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know that we have been able to prove that white holes exist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's purely a theoretical concept. Isn't it?
Yes, it is if there is a black hole that is sucking everything in, then there must be a counterpoint.
Yeah.
I still like the idea of future echoes. Talk about Red Dwarf stuff. I mean, that I thought was always quite intriguing. I thought, the idea that, you're seeing events before they happen, you're seeing things as they're coming along. And, well, I think it's just a lot of Red Dwarf is like the idea of, it's a fun little comedy. It's a great British sitcom. But at the same time, it does pose some really good questions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Then,
it's what we call intuition. Is that just future echoes? Was I able to use the spike of adrenaline when I was told that this was going out live to send a message back to myself to get everything ready and put this tank top on? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or was it just intuition? Jonjo.
I said this is just going to be against me.
I've spoken to Doug Naylor once for an article I was writing, and he admits that, yeah, we do. He and Rob Grant, when they were writing it together, were kind of they are into science, and we're kind of like picking up on science developments and kind of entwining that into the show, and then kind of basically extrapolating the comedy from outside, like backwards. That was also another concept that they just had an absolute ball with playing with. Well, what would it be like living in a backwards reality where time goes backwards?
Yes.
I still think one of the best things about Red Dwarf, and not a lot of people really mention it, is that, you've got all the sci-fi stuff, you've got traveling through space, you've got time travel, you've got robots. Technically, even though you've got genetically engineered life forms, there are no actual aliens in the show, which is,
that was the
I
one,
think, that was a very intriguing idea.
Yeah, well, that was very much down to the fact they wanted the concept of one guy completely alone 3 million years in the future. Humanity has died out, and there's no aliens. And they said from the start, no cute robots, no aliens. And they kind of got around the whole no aliens aspect with Gelfs, life forms, the polymorphs, and so on. But the kind of foundation principle is like, no, humanity's dead. All it is Dave Lister stuck in a spaceship with a hologram of his best of his bunkmate and a sanitation mechanoid with a loose chip and a creature that evolved from the ship's cat. No other humans, but it's just one guy stuck in a spaceship.
And Nevada is ready to release its vote count.
Holy shit! Really? Oh my God!
No. 3 million years in the.
Yeah, okay. That went completely over my head there. I was just like, "Holy shit!" I've been waiting for that. I know it's already. I know
talking of time travel, have you watched Primer?
Yes.
Well, now, as far as I'm concerned, that seems to be a fairly realistic depiction of time travel. On the guys that I couldn't understand it on the first watch, I had to watch it about 3 times just to get my head around it. So as far as I'm concerned, that's fairly realistic. What was your take?
I have to say that I saw someone, I think it might have been XKCD, had done looking at how time travel works in various films, like with Back to the Future, which would be a trilogy that would probably be on my to watch list. for that. I know it's 3 films, but you know, how Back to the Future works, another one, and Primer, and it was essentially just a whole load of scribbles. So I thought, oh, what is this primer? And I sort of looked it up, and I saw a primer for primer, and had a quick little read of that, and then went and watched it. And as you say, it seemed to be fairly consistent. I'm going back a bit, so you should have let me know, like the the Fresh Tomatoes podcast that I was on a couple of weeks ago. They had me watch a couple of films in preparation for, so I should have watched Primer before this, and basically the back catalogue of everything.
We don't do preparation. We just tell you 5 seconds before you're going to go on that you're going to be live, and go.
Which is fair enough.
It's not the easiest film to follow, because it's like a lot of exchange between the developers, and they kind of wanted to recreate that kind of intense brainstorming experience by people bouncing ideas off each other, finishing each other's sentences, and just like really kind of working on the fly, rather than taking the typical cinematic approach of okay, let's explain everything, and do info dumps which are not needed to, but it's needed for the audience, and he just
Yes. I think that's coming on to horror films then, just for a moment. One of the things I noticed about the Japanese version of The Ring and the American version of The Ring was the Japanese didn't explain anything. The Americans did.
Yeah.
And they built that coherent story so that everyone could follow it. And I think that sort of showed the difference for the cinematic outlook on things. Yeah,
the Japanese trilogy did try to explain Sadako into the sequels, especially in Ring 2, and her prequel story in Ring 0. But they never kind of really dug down. And the reason why Ringu works so well is that unknown. You just have no clue why it's happening, other than this pattern keeps repeating for no reason that you can ascertain.
And you've just mentioned Ring 0, which puts me in mind of Cube.
Yes.
Cube 2 and Cube 0. Those are really good films.
Is Cube the one where they have to escape from the rooms? Is that the one?
Yeah.
They're perfectly cubic rooms.
Yeah.
And the death traps, etc.
Yes. Yeah.
I've not seen Cube 2 or Cube 0. I've heard very mixed reviews about them, which has kind of put me off. Would you recommend them?
I would certainly recommend Cube 0.
Okay.
I think that was better than Cube 2. Cube 2 was essentially Cube, but they brought in the extra dimension of the hypercube. With going forward in time. So there is one scene where 2 of them age to death because they've gone into the time room.
Inverted commas.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, in terms of like time travel in films, one of the latest examples, don't know if you've seen it yet, David, Tenet, the new Christopher Nolan movie.
I have not seen that yet, no.
Now, this is a very intriguing idea. It's about time travel in a way that almost like it's reverse engineering the product or the person. So they are running in reverse. So instead of obviously shooting the bullet from the gun, the bullet is shooting sort of like from the wall into the gun. And then it's like, but that can still have an impact on what's going forward. And then obviously, if you've got someone, say, like jumping out of a plane, if they're inversing it, they're jumping into the plane. But in their perspective, they are still jumping out of the plane. It's just how it looks to the other person. And it's weird. It's
Red Dwarf backwards, isn't it?
It kind of is,
No.
I want to see.
That was what I said when I came out of it. I said, this is basically Red Dwarf in Christopher Nolan movie. But it's worth a watch, and I like it if you did see it, and I'd like to see what you would think on the whole aspect of because it's not so much time travel. It's like taking something and making it travel backwards in time on its own accord almost, and it's weird, but it's intriguing, and it's such a good watch. It's one of these films that I think you have to see it, and I watched it twice, and I was like, I kind of understand it a little bit more now, but I'm still just as confused. It's one of these concepts that just it's intriguing. It's really fun, but it's like I think it's because it's Christopher Nolan, I think, tries to put something in that's almost a little bit believable. When as much as you think this couldn't happen, you almost think, what if you could fire a gun and the bullet goes into the gun and all this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
Have you played the game? What's it called? Oh no, never mind. It's gone from my head. Sorry.
Time Splitters.
No, it's a platform game, but you're playing this chili that's running around, but you have to.
You can reverse
jump
time.
on the right.
You can reverse time and stuff within the game.
No, you start off at the end and you are doing it backwards, but you are recreating the conditions that were needed to be able to get to that stage. So if you miss jumping on an enemy that you would have had to jump on, then that causes it's never mind. Matt, I stopped you.
I think I've seen something similar. I think I've seen a game that's similar to that. There is one that kind of like you play as one character. I can't remember what it's called, but it's one game you play as a character throughout, and basically your actions. So if, say, you saved one character, then that character would come and help your second player, like your second character when they come along. And then say, like, I don't know, if you accidentally killed the wrong person, then when it comes to that point, you're then surrounded by enemies instead of actually being supported. And I can't for life of me think of what it is now. It's really annoying. But that was one of them PC games. I was like, this was actually really good.
It's this sort of time thing. It sort of reminded me of I'm not sure if you've seen it or not. It's called Legends of Tomorrow. It's a very cheesy DC series that's on Sky, and it's basically all the superheroes who couldn't make it into their own sort of kind of franchises sort of kind of stuck together. So you got like the Atom and what's her name, White Canary, and I can't remember who else is in it.
Basically, all the D-list superheroes that they just
but they
can't have
kill,
them in the main ones.
They don't only just kill history, but they kill time travel as well, because it's just like, there's no consequences whatsoever. They're going around and messing with time, and just like there's no consequence to it whatsoever. They're just shooting very loose with time travel and history. So.
If we talk about time travel, have you watched the Bill and Ted films, the trilogy?
A long time ago.
Oh, right.
A long time ago in this galaxy. Yeah. So it's been a while.
The newest one's okay. It's neither bogus, but it's neither it's not triumphant either. Unfortunately, it's good, but it's
moments of brilliance. Yeah. I would say, but worth a watch because there's moments of brilliance. But otherwise, it's hit and miss.
It's just weird seeing it's weird seeing Keanu Reeves without a beard. It's just like you're John Wick. You are now forever John Wick, and you should never be anybody bar John Wick.
To me, he's Constantine.
What did you think of Constantine?
No.
I liked it.
I liked it as well.
Pardon?
It was pretty good.
I liked it.
I liked it too.
I liked it.
I enjoyed it.
Me and Pete, I'm assuming you did read the Hellblazer comics from back then, and I loved Hellblazer. Yeah. That was one of my favourite series.
It was the Beano. That's what I read in the 80s and 90s. I read the Beano.
Yeah. No, I think with Constantine film, it's like either if you read the Hellblazer comics and then you saw the film, you would be like me and Jonjo would say, nope. That is a fun supernatural thriller, but it is not it's not Hellblazer. It is not John Constantine. But for anyone else who's watching it, it's a fun supernatural thriller. For me, though, if you watch the Constantine TV series, that is a much better recreation adaptation of the Hellblazer comic because it's much more in keeping with the character.
Right.
And both looked like him and sounded a lot like him. Because Matt Ryan was really good as John Constantine.
Didn't it?
Yeah, well, there's a Cancer the Firefly as well, so
I forgot for the one. Yeah. Actually, one last thing on time travel TV series. There was a show which, be honest, it's a little bit of silly fluff, really, when you think about it. But there was a show about 12, 13 years ago called Journeyman, which was about a guy who just somehow randomly just goes back in time. He tries helping out people with certain events, and then he goes back to the future. And sometimes things have gone quite well, so he saved the person, so they're now interacting with his life, or they have consequences that affect his family, and it's. I'm just trying to think. It's the best way to describe it. It's like Quantum Leap, but he goes back home at the end of every episode, so it's not. It's not like he's then forever traveling through time. But it was one of them shows that it had such a good. I liked it. I think it had such a good premise because it was the idea that this guy. Throughout this time, you find out that his former fiance, who we thought died in the plane crash, she actually is a time traveler herself, but she's from like 60 years in the past. So whenever she does a jump, she's jumping to the future. But when he was jumping, he was going to the past, and they interacted with each other. They're obviously trying to almost build like their relationship together almost. But then he goes back to his family. He time travels once when he's with his son, so his son goes missing for an episode, and then when he comes back, he's like, "Oh shit, what's happened?" And he goes, "You left a child. How could you?" But if you've not seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. It's only 13 episodes. So it's a very criminally underrated show. And there's even a little bit at the end of the last episode, which they kind of try to explain what's happening. They try to kind of give an idea as to why the time traveling's happening. And it's one of them things that I kind of, when it finished, I was like, this is it. How can they really finish it like this? It's one of them. It's not one of them shows that leaves it on a very obvious cliffhanger ending or anything like that. It's given a nice enough ending, but it was one of them shows that I think time travel was kind of like the not even like the second part of it. It was like the third part. It was like, it was like the family emotional stuff. It's the conflicts and the relationships, and then it was like,
so it's a series about time travel that doesn't really do time travel.
It does do well, it's because he gets a headache. This is the thing. He gets a headache, and there's the first episode, he's sitting in a taxi, and he's like this, and all of a sudden he opens his eyes, and he thinks, hang on, where am I? And the guy goes, dude, how did you get in my taxi? What are you on about? And he doesn't realise for a little while he's gone back 10 years. And he's like walking around, he's like, hang on.
So it's kind of like Quantum Leap then.
Yeah.
But Quantum Leap's amazing. Quantum Leap was such a good series. I loved Quantum Leap. I grew up on that stuff. I just loved it so much. Really? Pete, come on, man. Jeez. The Nam episode is repetitive.
It was very well acted. But it was very repetitive. They didn't try to kind of shake up the formula in any way, shape, or form. It was just go back in time, right or wrong, yay, all sorted, move on. And they didn't try to kind of develop the idea of like explore it, do more with it. I mean, personally, I think, ever seen Source Code?
Yes.
That is a very good film, very similar to Quantum Leap. But I thought they managed that much better. They kind of really explored it. Basically, it's what happened if the military-industrial complex gets hold of quantum leap technology. But I loved that. I loved it. I was really on board with it. But Quantum Leap, there's too much of it. I think it was better as a miniseries, but with every episode being the same, I just kind of got bored.
I think Quantum Leap had one of the most I think it's a disappointing ending because you think after all the years you follow the character. Yeah, it's a sad one, but it's literally it's just a little message. Just goes, Dr. Samuel Beckett never got.
That's
home.
because they got cancelled. Because they got cancelled and they couldn't finish it.
But they could have at least just wrote. They could have changed the script and gone, Dr. Beckett finally got home. The end.
No, because it's just I thought it was a good end. That last episode.
Matt Geary, are you hoping that they will do a revival?
Oh, there's talks about Quantum Leap films and all kinds of stuff.
That was source code, dude. That was source code.
It's just I suppose it's just one of those things I grew up on, and I just I loved it. It just really and it didn't bother me that it was the same sort of kind of formula each time. Best episodes were the ones where he's in Vietnam trying to save his brother. Or the one where he meets an angel, and that one was really good. There's loads. There's the one where he meets Donald Trump in an episode, in the same episode and stuff. There's a little kid in a tower. He meets the little boy Donald Trump, which is mildly amusing.
Ooh,
But
dear.
yeah.
So he could have averted everything.
He could have. He could have. Oh, damn you! You didn't write that wrong, Samuel Beckett. Where was Ziggy then? Doing his calculations. It's like, if you kill this child now, do a twofer because you just saved that person's life. You're now, and then you got this little boy. If you were just to throw him underneath not even underneath the proverbial bus, actually, if you were to throw him under the actual bus, then I would sort of see it.
So just moving on to what Jonjo was talking about with Journeyman and everything. It puts me in mind of a game which you may well have played, Chrononauts.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Chrononauts with the "Your parents never met" card and things like that. Oh, that is a wonderful game. It's so easy to explain, but there's so many ways to try and trip your opponents up. It's a wonderful game.
There's a game by Chloe Mashita called Time Heist, where basically you're stealing the world's first time machine with help from your future selves. And that just sounds fantastic. I'm gonna buy it.
Yes, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the concept of it is just, yeah, okay. Where do I sign up?
So we'll move on from time travel. So
will we?
Will we? Well, I don't know, we're going to get into.
Or will we come back around to it?
It's already part of historical events.
It is, yes.
So,
but it's the good thing is because it's going to start getting into questions like, so can you, if you find out about something that happens in the future, it will not happen because does that mean if you find out about something in the future, does that mean that your path is then set? There's no way for you to stop getting to that point and stuff.
And how do you kind of define it in language? Like something that has already happened to you but will be happening to you again in the future.
I always think with time travel, if you did do something, I don't know, say like if someone did manage to get the power of time travel, how would you know that events have been changed unless you were actually part of that traveling group? Or
exactly, you wouldn't know.
Because it's
if you were outside the time travel bubble, if you like, then you wouldn't know.
Yeah, what's it like the what they call it, the Mandela effect? So it's like there's certain events people go. One of my favourite ones is the film Kazam. Some people think there was a spiritual sequel called Shazam, which starred Sinbad. It's like, no, there was never such a film, but some people are adamant that they saw this movie in the late 90s. It's like, that never happened. Or Berenstein Bears. I always called it Berenstein, but apparently it's Berenstain. I was like, no, Berenstein Bears.
It's just a comment. We're just gonna go back in the time travel now. Might as well. I watched another film, another Tom Cruise film, because my girlfriend hadn't seen it. Edge of Tomorrow.
That is good, actually. Yeah.
Have you seen it, Dave?
I have not. No.
So it's basically World War II, futuristic World War II with time travel. So it's aliens have landed in Central Europe, have started taking over Europe, starting off in Germany and moving to the French coast, where the Allies are planning an invasion, and they've got these super sort of mechanoid suits they can use to make them super soldiers. The sort of glitch in the whole thing is that Tom Cruise's character starts off as this bumbling PR guy who has no sort of he's not a military man. He's just been behind the scenes. He gets thrown into combat. He basically shoots this thing, this sort of alpha they call it. He gets the blood drains onto him, and then he wakes up. So it's like Groundhog Day. So every time he dies, he goes back to the same point. He wakes up in the boot camp, and each time he does that, he tries to make things better, so he can sort of basically win the war effectively.
Sort of butterfly effect.
Yeah. But it's like the thing I got, and so there's a point in it where what's the name of the English actress who's in it?
Emily Blunt.
Yeah, Emily Blunt. Yeah, she was able to time travel at one point in time, but lost it. And he talks to her, and then she's like, "Right, so you need to come and find me." And every time she trains him, and every time he fucks up, she kills him. And then my mind was kind of going, right, so he dies and he goes back, he flips back to the beginning. But does that timeline carry on? So she's got to a point where she's killed him, and that timeline carries on with her having just killed some random guy each time. Do these timelines sort of fly off, or does it cease to exist and then
it's more like it's branching
question.
timelines. It's basically branching timelines, and like for each loop you came back, a new kind of timeline or dimension was created, which kind of that event plays out, dies, right, back he goes again, and
so basically there's going to be a time where there's going to be, because she kills him in so many, they kills him hundreds of times, so there's basically hundreds of times where she's killed this guy and carried on, having murdered somebody.
But there's technically there's a Doctor Who episode from Peter Capaldi's last series, not last series, from series 9, where he's basically in this castle on Gallifrey, and he's for billions and billions of years he's literally trying to fight his way through this wall. He gets to this wall and he's literally trying to punch it, trying to break his way through, and this creature basically kills him. And you find out that over the episode, the Doctor's been going around this castle. He thinks, hang on, why are all these bones here? Why are all these skulls in this water? It's like, well, it's him. He's literally been killed every single time. Yeah. But then his essence is being then brought back to pretty much.
Why have the stars moved? Why have the stars moved just a little bit? And it looks like what it should be, but 40,000 years in the future, 100,000 years in the future, 150. So yes, but I suppose for that one, if you were to follow his timeline, it would be a lot of it wouldn't even be going round and around and around, because he is creating a new version of himself each time by being able to go back and redo the teleport. So when it comes to The Edge of Tomorrow, where Tom Cruise will be, it really depends whose timeline you are following. That's the crucial thing, because if you're following Tom Cruise's timeline, which the film evidently does, then yes, he will go there and loop back on himself to the same point and be creating a little knot of himselves within some sort of how they get around space, etc. is anybody's guess. But that's how you'd be doing it. You'd be looping it around in that one day, week. I don't know how long it is, but if you're looking at it from Emily Blunt's point of view, there will be one of her, or one alternative of her for every time Tom Cruise comes along. It'll be this decision tree. This is the multiverse going back to that branch and then taking a new branch each time. This is where the multiverse theory is very helpful.
That's just mad. That sort of, but the thing is, that sort of, like, as a human being, he's trying to you're trying to conceptualize this. It's like, she's just, if you carry on with her timeline, she's just killed him, and then everybody else, he's dead, and he carries on doing his thing, but she's just killed a guy, and everybody's looking at her going, what the fuck did you just do? And then she's like, she has to carry on her life as somebody who just murdered somebody, because she thinks, I'm saving the world here, but she won't save that timeline.
Nope.
No. So she basically hasn't, and she'll be going, but I'm going to save the world. And she'll be like 20 years down the line, she's been in an insane asylum, and she'll be like, but I'm going to save the world. And it's just like, really? Are you Emily Blunt? Are you going to save the world?
Talking about saving the world, there is one other one that springs to mind, and that is Heroes. Because there is a few instances in season 2. There's one where Peter Petrelli goes into the future, and it's this post-apocalyptic world. There's been this virus that's quite scary, actually, thinking about that now. There's this virus that's gone out. It's killing like 80% of the population, and he's with his new partner, his new love interest, and all of a sudden he gets sent back into the present day.
Oh no! Do your thing. Come on, come back.
This horrible,
Jonjo, stop you there. Jonjo.
That's why
Jonjo, sorry, OBS just died there. Can you just say what you just are about to say again? Because it just kind of went.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So this episode of Heroes in season 2, you've got Peter Petrelli, who he goes into this post-apocalyptic future where there's this horrible virus which has killed off 80% of the population. He's there with his new love interest, who he accidentally leaves in the future. He goes back to the present day. And obviously that future never comes to pass. So this girl who's gone on this trip with him has now just been wiped out of history. And then in the I know quite a few people hate this as much as I do. In the Heroes Reborn mini-series, which at the end of that, the villain of the series, basically the same thing happens to her. She's left to a future which will never happen. She's sealed off, and then obviously time carries on basically without her, and it's because the massive event that destroys the world never happens. And it's an intriguing way of thinking. This is a way of getting rid of characters. This is a way of getting rid of certain people, because you're not thinking like, bring them to the present day, we deal with them that way. It's like, no, we seal them off in an alternative future that they'll never come back from. That's it. And
this is why we all have to find the person that is going back to 2015 to save everything, so that we don't get stuck in this future.
Yes.
It blows my mind, man. It's like that, and sort of like, have you seen a series called Altered Carbon on Netflix at all?
Oh yes, that's good.
Yeah, it's that we've talked about this. We might as well talk about it now as well. But it's that whole thing about creating, being able to input your consciousness into another body, and if you do that, is that actually you, or is that a copy of you? You just think it's you, and it's like that whole thing just melts my head, because I'm just like, is it me, or is it just somebody who thinks it's me, and then he's just going to carry on? Did I die? And then it's...
Well, yes, because if you've got your teleporter, then we don't have a way of sending matter that fast, just information. And so if you have if you have teleported, then what you have done is every single atom, every electron within that atom, its spin, its position, etc., has been noted, and of course that Heisenberg uncertainty principle accepted. Everything has been mapped, and the information sent to be recreated on in that on that other teleporter pad. What happens with the one that is left there? What has happened with the original? It has to go. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, you're creating a copy, and you're leaving the original, and that's photocopying. It's not teleportation. But whatever happens, if you're using a teleporter, yes, the original of what is you must die.
So it is literally it isn't you then. It
isn't you.
It is just a copy of you.
It depends on how you define you.
Exactly, because if you have you ever read, or I think it did get turned into a series. What was it? The one Dave Wong. I can't think of it. But in there he says, "Okay, I've got a hammer. Then the shaft of the hammer breaks, so I replace that, and then the top of the hammer gets useless, so I replace that. Is it still my hammer?"
Right.
It's that question. Yes, it's still mine. I've still been using it, but everything within it has been replaced.
Yeah.
It's like the Only Fools and Horses sketch where he's talking about his
trigger. This broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles. And how is it the same broom? There's a photo of it here. What do you want? Oh god.
Yeah, but just like it's
this book contains spiders. I think is something approximating to the name, but seriously, don't open it. It's very good. It's a really, really good book.
I would ask, because obviously, David, we've learned that you obviously know a lot on your astrophysics. We talked about like black holes, time travel, all this stuff. When you get your scripts for your audio work, has there ever been any sci-fi stuff you've got and you've kind of gone,
nah?
That's not right. Have you then just bit your tongue and just thought, well, it's science fiction, let's go with that? Or have you gone, actually, if you change this bit, put this bit.
There is a lot in science fiction where one can nod it through and say, yes, okay, it's fiction, that's fine, it's a story. I don't mind if such and such a thing happens. But
I just hope I haven't cost you any acting gigs now. This is where it goes, we don't like our stuff.
like such things as anti-gravity, for instance. I know, but
but how are we meant to walk around our spaceships in the future?
Rotating fields.
Oh.
Yes, you use centrifugal force rather than gravity. There we go.
Expanse did that really, really well.
Yes, they did. So yeah, there are some things where it's okay. It's an accepted trope in science fiction. I can let that go. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. But if someone says, "Oh, look over there at that gas giant. Let's land on the surface," I may well say,
Oh, sorry,
it's kind of in the name. Kind of in the name.
That's like claws going down a chalkboard for me. Just
exactly.
No.
Yes. So there are times where I have said, that wouldn't actually happen, even in the accepted fiction of sci-fi. Yes, there have been times where I have occasionally sent an email back and said, can I offer you some little hints here? But if they say, no, this is what I want, then you grit your teeth and well, you don't even grit. You just do it, because that is the job of an actor. You are given the words on a page. You do the words on the page. I have never murdered anyone. Not that anyone's found the bodies. What's in the box? What's under the blanket? And yet I can play a murderer. I've played the devil. I've played God. I've played various things which I can't explain the science behind, and I have never gone through that particular feeling of being that person / deity / whatever. But you just do it. That is the job of an actor.
All right. Yeah. So there wouldn't be a line. There'd be no line. It would just be like, it's just acting. Are there things that you would never do?
As a voice actor, I've done some pretty weird stuff.
There has been some talk about like no sleep stuff. There has been some great monologue stories that you've done. One of them that I still think was quite intriguing was your character was in a dream, and it was this like apocalyptic vision of the future, and he's talking about, I think, like becomes a tree or something. He's having hooks dug into the tree. He's being chopped up, and there's blood coming out of the tree.
Yes,
that freaked me out. That one, that was, and it was just that last stinger when you went, this is our future. This is what is to come. And it was like, wow, okay. All of a sudden, it's just like that's freaked me out even further.
There was one, talking of monologues on no sleep, that spring to mind. There was one called Transformation Tuesday, which was about a guy bringing a guy back home, and then tying him up and basically delivering this entire monologue about the world, and then saying, okay, right, I'm gonna kill you now. Which is great fun, as you do. It's something to do on a Saturday night. And yeah, so I have done some crazy things as a voice actor. I have had sex with a woman 2 weeks apart and 6,000 miles away, which has to be a record. As I said, I've been the devil, so I've caused the end of the world. Blah blah blah.
The devil one, was that the one? No, there was there
have been multiple incarnations of the devil.
Yeah, I'll just try to remember one of them that I remember quite vividly was the one where you said that you give someone a phone call because there's a guy who has been yearning to speak to his former love, his girl who's just out of his life. And then there's the one when you go, well, there is a price to pay if you would want the. And but it was one of the things that I kind of see where it was going to lead to. I could see how the story was definitely going to come to its conclusion, but it was the idea that obviously you as the devil, you're making it sound so attractive, so as obviously a devil would when he's trying to get someone's soul. But it was the idea that you're going, look, what's it going to worry you if it doesn't work? You haven't lost a thing, you know. If you honestly don't think this is going to do anything, then what's it going to hurt for me to just say yes, I can set this up for you? And it's one of the things that I think, especially with your delivery, you do make it sound so like invited, and you go, yeah, sure. I can't say no to this guy. Definitely, yeah.
I feel like I need to hear the devil voice now. What's the devil voice? give us a devil line.
Oh, well, mostly, really, what the devil is just someone who is very suave and is very self-confident. And Jonjo, if ever you invite me onto a podcast again, and don't tell me it's going out live, well, I'm going to be paying a visit to you. And won't that be lovely?
Well, voice.
I kind of would. Later, I'll be shitting myself.
Just on a completely random note, right? We do Dungeons and Dragons every Thursday night, and I have got myself into this rut of doing the same sort of, yokel sort of English, ooh-ar sort of kind of accent for every single peasant there is. I try to sort of throw in different things. How do I create different sort of accents for people and stuff? How do I sort of get past this? Like, I can do, like, I've got sort of like I've got a sort of older man for like one of the deities, and then I've got, somebody, if he's being a bit sort of, underhanded, something similar to your devil voice. But I keep on, every time I'm trying to think of a voice, I automatically go on, oh no, Mr. Frodo. And I can't help it. It was like the last episode we were doing, I was trying to do another accent, and it just kept on popping into, oh, Mr. Frodo, don't do that. I was like, ugh, I can't do it. I feel like you should just do
that. Sounds like a completely different story altogether. Oh, Mr. Frodo, don't do that.
But yeah, is there a way that you sort of work out your accents, or?
Ooh, right. So yeah, a lot of Erica is very much the person to speak to on this one. I know that she took you through, the old person with the crack in the voice and everything like that. So I will leave that with her. One thing that you might want to try, like Erica, just with the physicality, trying a different one. But one thing you might want to try is just altering the way your mouth works. So whenever, for example, I'm doing Winston Churchill, I am basically doing the same voice as normal, but I have my tongue fixed to the top left of my mouth. And so with that, we can fight them on the beaches, we shall fight them in the towns or landing grounds, we shall never surrender. Oh. So that's just a different position of the tongue.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna see if I can try this now. 1 minute.
This is gonna be fun.
All right. Okay. Oh God, I can't even think of a line now. What am I gonna say?
Quote something from the last film you watched.
Oh God, man, I can't be put on the spot.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm just not good at ad-libbing. This is really bad considering I run a D&D game. It's just like, just trying to ad-lib, and I have to do ad-libbing all the time. And when you put me on the spot, I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's me. That's a different voice with my tongue on my cheek. Holy shit. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I played the character Draken, who is this kind of half man, half dragon barbarian, but I'm playing with this Russian accent because I wanted something like a very powerful accent. And my total is like, I start off going, well, and taking very slowly, enjoying out the words, and well, we will have words to say. But the problem is I keep dropping out the accent off him.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was Russian, to be honest, man. That being said,
like,
it was like I completely didn't buy into the Russian side of things. That being said, Gaius was meant to be sort of Eastern, Russian, Eastern European and stuff. If I put thought into it, it's not as bad. But if I have to sort of put a random person there, it's automatic. Oh, Mr. Frodo, oh, you can't go there. It's not good for you. And it's just like, so I'm gonna try I'll try the different mouth thing. Then, and see if that works.
It's a different type of physicality, but it might be something that helps.
All right, okay, yeah, I'll give that a whirl on Thursday. Oh, nice. With the No Sleep podcast, is there any sort of particular, because we asked this to Eric as well, is there any particular type of horror that you sort of kind of enjoy doing more than others?
A lot of the characters that I seem to play are either fathers that are losing / have lost children / wives / lovers. So I tend to be embittered or sad. Or going mad. I find that madness is a wonderful one, where we start off normal and then slowly everything just sort of breaks down in a world of craziness. In terms of one, we were talking earlier, and it is. I'll bring it back now. In terms of one bit of horror that I don't do, it's the gore and the body horror. I don't like. I saw a scene from Hostel, and that was more than enough for me.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of gore either, to be honest.
So that's that side of stuff. No, thank you very much. But the anything to do with ghosts, with the psychological side of stuff, that's my sort of thing. I do in Ripon, North Yorkshire, where I am. I do help to run the ghost walks when 2020 isn't fucking everything up.
Do you do them in York?
No, I do them in Ripon.
Do you do them in Ripon? Because there's a guy does some stuff for us. So he calls Dorian Deathly Night Tours, and he does ghost walks of York and stuff, and it looks like loads of fun. Like I don't believe in ghosts, but I like the sort of the theater and the whole thing behind it,
the stories.
Yeah. I love that sort of thing. Yeah.
Why don't you believe in them?
Because I watched the thing about I can't even remember where it came from, but I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in an afterlife. So that sort of kind of ties into my initial, why there couldn't be spirits. Scientifically, I would say that I don't think I've seen anything that could prove it. A lot of the stuff that I like to read and watch, Darren Brown's a massive thing. I love Darren Brown, and he's very much a case of it's a trick of the mind. Everything is in your mind. So if you see faces and things, it's very much a case of your brain is evolution. The evolution of a human brain is to put faces where they're not, because it's trying to understand the world around it. So that's why when you look at clouds, when you look at clouds and stuff like that, you see faces and you see things, because that's what your brain is meant to. So it's back in the day when you were trying to figure out, is there in those reeds over there, is it a tiger, or is it something that's going to kill me? Therefore, it's better for me to make something up and be safe than to kind of go, well, I'll wait for it to pop out just in case it's nothing and stuff. So it's those sort of things, and it's like, I used to I was massively into it when I was a kid. Like we got told ghost stories about like the White Lady in Northern Ireland where I am. There's a place called Red Hall, and there was a White Lady, and there was the Headless Horseman, and you had all those sort of the Madman. I think we had another one. We had a place called Madman's Leap in Ballycarry, the village where I am, sort of where this crazy man sort of leapt to his death and comes back and kills people and stuff. But and I loved it, and but I'm very much a person who likes to have it proven to me. And as time's gone on, every time somebody's kind of gone, well, this is proof that it's a ghost. And I'm like, it isn't though. It doesn't really, it can be explained in one way or another, and everything seems to be explainable from what I've seen so far, and that's why I don't believe in it. It's not that I don't want to believe in it. I would happily believe in magic and ghosts and things like that. If somebody could turn around to me and go, look, this is proof. This is proof, without showing me some fog on a photograph or something that you can prove, is this, and I've seen some things about how I can't even remember what it was, but it's basically there's a theory that, right, there might not be a soul, but it's the fact that because energy is never
created or destroyed,
that because of that you have that potential of it going on to another, going somewhere else. So your essence is effectively moving in, and that sort of, one, it's quite heartwarming in a way because, if you're an atheist like me, there is no afterlife. So with something like that, you have something in a way to hold on to that makes you think, okay, well, maybe there is something. But I just I lived my life with proofs. I feel like I need things to be proved to me, and I'm happy to accept. If somebody turns around and we go, "This is proof," I'm brilliant, happy days.
Okay. So how do you know there is no afterlife?
Somebody told me there is no particle, there is no spirit particle or anything. There's nothing that can be proven to sort of exist after that. They haven't found one in lab experiments. They can't say, well, this is something that exists outside of your conscious body. Okay,
but how do you know there is no afterlife?
I don't know.
How do you know there is an afterlife?
Yes. Well, this is the thing. I'm not saying that there is, but I'm not saying that there isn't.
But it's just that Richard Dawkins thing. So if you've read the the God Delusion, and he basically says I am not 100% atheist. Nobody can be 100% atheist because you can never know 100% that there is, like you said, an afterlife. You are agnostic with a high percentage leaning towards atheism. So I can never, it can never be proven because nobody's died and sort of been able to prove it. And it's likewise, nobody's come back to sort of disprove it to prove it. Sorry. So I can't prove it, but
it's like the story of the babies in the wombs, and if babies had phones that they could talk to each other in the wombs, then they'd all be happily chatting around, and then suddenly one day one of them would disappear. This tunnel opens, there's a light at the end, and that baby is no longer with them. And where's it gone? Why isn't it coming back? We have no proof that it's gone somewhere. And all of that. There are ways around things, but the way that I look at things, because I have gone through being a Christian, then being hard anti-Christian. I don't think Richard Dawkins has it right, personally, because I think he presents a very joyless,
he's very
and
militant,
wonderless view of the universe, a very mechanistic view, which I don't really like at all. But in terms of ghosts, etc., I think I've never seen one, so I don't have personal proof. I don't have any kind of verification. I go around, I tell people the stories of strange things that have happened in places, all of the grisly deaths that have taken place in various buildings. But I personally, I would say there is far too much evidence from people who say that they have seen things and said similar things without being able to corroborate, to dismiss it out of hand.
Yeah, I think.
But do you not think that would, along the lines of, you've got to look back in time? Everybody felt that, because there was famine, that must be because of X God, or that must be
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
and that's because they had no other, and they all witnessed the same sort of thing. They would have had the same sort of experiences, and therefore it must be true because that's the only thing you can count. So there's a lot of people who maybe don't have sort of, you know, a lot of people see the faces and things. That's a big sort of thing. It's like they see faces and they believe that those faces must be must be a ghost, and because there's a lot of them, I just don't buy into the whole because a lot of people agree to something, because, you know, we had Donald Trump, so that must be right. Basically, I don't do the populist sort of thing. It's just like,
if anything, I'll say that's ridiculous.
it's just, you know, I would love there to be and stuff. And there's certain things like, you know, and even in my own mind, as much as like I said, I'm agnostic with a very strong leaning towards the atheism. Like when my father died, and I don't know if this is my mind making it up, or if, you know, is it something that happened, or is it something that my mind said happened after it, because, you know, I'm trying to ease myself, you know, because of the passing of my father. But I was sure that I had a dream the night before I got the phone call of my father dying, that he was walking up the stairs and sort of, you know, in my house, and sort of looked back at me and sort of nodded, and then went into his room and then went. And I have it in my head that's like, when the phone call came to my sister saying, you know, he's dead, I went, I'm pretty sure I just had a dream about him. And it's those things, and I wasn't, you know, in my mind I was just like, did that happen, or have I made that up afterwards to try and make some connection or something? So there is a part of me that sort of wants it to be true. I just can't sort of get that justification, because I don't know.
Evidence.
It's not, you know, it is evidence. It's more, I think it's more the fact of, I was more willing to believe in things when I was younger, because, you know, I hadn't been jaded by the world by then, so you're just sort of happy to believe in stuff.
Well, that's divine retribution then, obviously.
Yeah, say that.
Oh no,
he's taking his vengeance.
Yeah.
OBS.
No, I mean, I come from like an engineering rationalistic background, and I was raised Christian, but like I wouldn't say militant, but I have like a evidence-based approach. But I think the thing that kind of really rums home for me is that we cannot explain everything using science. There's this line from Ghostbusters 2, which I keep coming back to, is that, you know, there are things out there that go way beyond human understanding, and that is true. So I mean, while I am atheist, I would describe myself as spiritual, and that's not a complete hard eye. But yeah, there's stuff out there. Can we explain it? No. Could we ever explain it? No. Basically.
Well, I don't. I think you can. I'm of the view that, you know, if somebody was to turn around to me and was able to explain, I think most things in this world are explainable eventually. It just takes time and human technology and understanding.
You just use the word most.
Okay, I will say everything in this world is explainable. I'll not use probably. Everything in the world is explainable to a point. It's just that we either don't understand it at this moment in time, don't have the technology to gauge what it is. So, you know, it could be that somebody at some point go, look, there is something that can prove that there is an afterlife. It's just we don't have the technological ability to see that at this moment in time. And as soon as somebody told me that, I go, I'm on that. Awesome. That's great. But because it's not there... But then you're
assuming that we will be able to understand it from our kind of five senses, or our perception. Now, try to explain like a sixth or seventh perception or thinking in 6 dimensions.
What's the 6th dimension?
Exactly.
What is that?
Exactly.
Is that senses? Is that sort of intuition and stuff?
Well, there's in the dimensions, there's X, Y, and Z, up, down, depth. Yeah. Then you've also got the 4th dimension, time. But then there is also completely theoretically possible a 5th or 6th dimension in an alternate version of reality.
Which you can have 3 dimensions of time, to be fair, going left and right in time. Up
yeah,
and down
true.
In time.
There you go. So they literally could have 6 dimensions. Now, how could you think like that when we are linear people?
How do you explain depth to a painting?
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that. I'm not sure where it comes in with the whole there. Is there ghosts or not? I don't. How does that extra? So you're basically
Have you ever gone into a room and felt that sort of that shiver?
Well, yeah, I've had experiences like the place where we live in Northern Ireland, where my family home is called Red Hall, and it's meant to be super haunted. And I remember going into Red Hall as a child. Well, not a child, sort of like 10, 11 with my brother, and there was these toys that were sitting on the chair, and we were there, and I was looking at it, and one just went and flew off the chair. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way that could have happened. And we ran out screaming and stuff. But it's just like, at the time, I was just like, well, that's impossible because there's no way. But, it could have been anything. Could have been the wind. Could have been something's knocked it that's knocked that. It could have been, all kinds of things. And it's, if there was ghosts, that would, if I could justify to myself there was something that would make me happy, because that would mean I could see my father again, or I could see my loved ones again. That sort of, it's not I'm doing it out of there's definitely nothing there, because it would make me a lot happier to know that I would be able to see these people. I just cannot justify it with myself. It's just like I went through a major, because I come from Northern Ireland and religion is a huge thing there, and it's cancerous in a way, because it causes a lot of issues where it doesn't need to. And that's one of the reasons I've turned to atheism, because you don't turn to atheism, you just sort of give up on religion effectively. And then obviously being a history nerd, I know how the foundation of each religion has come about, therefore, and it just doesn't make sense to me that, this. So I know I've read all the main holy books and stuff like that. So all that stuff sort of tied into it. But I went through I went through the stage of trying to justify it, and trying to because I went through being Christian to being agnostic. And the atheism thing, which I appreciate, I've said you can never be fully atheism, but atheism as we know it, it was really hard for me, because I couldn't get past the death thing. I couldn't get past the whole there's nothingness. And ironically, I was in Kefalonia, and I was looking at Ithaca at the time, when it just sort of clicked with me, and it's just like, that's just the way it is. I actually wrote a poem about it, and it was just about it's called Arda versus Draga, who are basically the good and the evil of the Persian pantheon, the ancient Persian pantheon. And it was just sort of like, my view on the gods died in one of the birthplaces of the pantheon, and it was, for me, it was quite poetic, but it was just sort of like, I struggle with the death thing, but I also have a very strong view on evidence-based things. I hate they're not, like at the minute, I have got some people on my Facebook page who keep on banging on about fraud within this election with no evidence whatsoever. It annoys me. I don't, I would happily accept something if somebody put it in front of me and said, this is true, I'll believe that. That's fine. But if nobody can prove it to me, it's like, it's belief. And for me, belief is a very dangerous thing. Coming from Northern Ireland, belief should, for what we are as human beings, we should base our lives on facts so we can carry on. And then when new facts come into play, we can evolve with them. But belief is something that can create war, can create death, can create division and stuff. And that's why I am very, very, very against this whole, well, yeah, you should just believe, man. You should just do this, because it doesn't tie into me and what I've seen and what I've witnessed growing up and stuff. And it's just like, I don't buy into that. It has to be fact-based so I can register and go, that's how things are, this is how they should be. As much as I want this other part to be true, I can't justify it. Therefore, there's no point in me killing myself over it. I might as well just go, right, facts.
I would honestly say I agree with a lot of that. And when my granddad died nearly 2 years ago, I remember the night before the funeral, I just I just started talking into thin air as if I was talking to him, and it's one of them things that myself, I am Christian. I'll honestly say I've not probably been the most fulfilling Christian. I've very rarely ever gone to church or anything like that. But I think for me, it was the idea that I like the idea that maybe if I am talking out into the ether, maybe someone is there, maybe someone is listening to what's being said, maybe something is being taken in. And I think a lot of it is personal feeling. It's not that I'm saying like, oh, I'm purposely searching for evidence, because I know some people want that presented to them, but then some people are happy to accept, in myself, I think this is possible, I think this is something that is real. And everyone, I think, is always going to have this feeling of what they do and don't believe. And even Matt, as you've said, you would like to have proof given to you. You'd like to have something put in front of you to say, yes, this is real, like an afterlife is real, ghosts are real, things like that. And I understand that. And I think with me, I almost feel sometimes the same. I feel like I'd like to have something shown to me. I'd like to have something presented to me almost in black and white to say, yes, this is all real, this is all true. But I think sometimes in my heart, I just kind of want to go, well, if I ain't communicating with anyone, if I'm not actually talking to anyone when I am talking out loud, to me, I feel like I am communicating, even if it is just to maybe just almost like satisfy myself, almost just to make myself think, maybe if I do reach out, who knows what could come of it.
It certainly sounds, though, Matt, that your position is very much forged in the fire of religion.
Very much so, yeah.
Religion can be absolutely a poison, an absolute poison, because religion, once there is an idea is, so you could call it timeless, but very much it's usually an idea for a certain time, a certain place, a certain people. And that's when it's there for. The tension is created and then it's resolved. And the problem comes when people start building their lives around what was a very temporal thing, a very temporary thing.
You're talking about dogma, isn't it?
Exactly.
Dogma. Yeah.
Yes. That's when religions start, and it stops being an idea, a faith, whatever. It starts being a religion, and religion is a problem. I think we can probably all agree on that one. And the problem for me is that when I see people like Richard Dawkins, when I see people like Brian Cox, and people like that, they have turned science into a religion. They have turned it into this whole, oh no, that's just superstition. You can't believe that. That's superstition. Of course it can. What we need is we need evidence, we need facts, and it has become a religion of science, which is just as damaging, in my mind, as any other religion.
Well, any tribalism whatsoever is sort of, is going to be that way. There's a South Park episode where they go into the future. It's got Richard Dawkins in it, actually, and it's got these atheist otters, and it's about the different factions within the atheist otters and stuff, and how they believe, their views on certain facts and stuff. And it is, and I agree that's why I sort of, I've said I'm atheist loads of times when I try not to say, I don't want to sort of get myself into that sort of niche of being a part of something, but I can understand what you're saying, because Richard Dawkins, I as a person, and I've met him, I got his new book, I got it signed and everything, is quite sort of what's the word, he's quite sterile in his views of, they're very much black and white. This is true, this isn't true, and if you don't believe it, you're an idiot. And he is quite, I think, over time, and you can see sort of his earlier works, it's not as sort of I wouldn't even say, I suppose militant slightly.
It is militant,
quite militant. You can tell he's literally being questioned so much over certain things that he's literally just dug his heels in and gone, that's it. And I'm just
Absolutely.
sort of.
I mean, he's been put up against some of the most idiotic people on the planet. And being told to debate these people, and on both sides there is a lack of wanting to give any ground whatsoever. That's not meaningful debate when you've got two polarized opinions that aren't going to shift.
No.
You're never going to get anything out of that. But yeah, so he has had to do this. In a way, it's a character. He is playing a character for the public. It's probably not the same when he goes home to Romana, but that is his character of the militant atheist who is the Pope of the religion of science.
Yeah, he is effectively the Pope of science, isn't he? But the thing is, as much as he is as a person who, from interviewing stuff, for me, the stuff he writes, especially more about religion, because again, for me, that's the sort of the thing that winds me up the most. It makes sense and stuff, stuff about how you can't have a Christian baby, you can't have a Muslim baby, you can't have a Jewish baby because they don't know any better. They're basically just being told what to be, and therefore you can't be. They haven't made up their mind and stuff like that.
All religion is conditioning.
Yeah, it is conditioning. It's basically, and he sort of talks about sort of what is it? It's basically, it's like, as a child, you grow up and children are like sponges. Children are basically, they will accept everything their parents will tell them because, back in the day, if your parents told you, don't eat that berry, it's poisonous, don't go over there because there's tigers, that's how they survived. Therefore, when somebody turns them, there's a guy in the sky who will send you to hell if you do this, they'll go, okay, I believe that. That's the way it is, because that's the way they're conditioned to believe things. And so that's, stuff like that sort of registers with the history side of mine and things, and then obviously the scientific side of things sort of marries in, and that's why I'm like, I buy into that.
Then you've given us your own conditioning, because you talked, you basically gave chapter and verse on seeing faces in things. That was chapter and verse conditioning from the Richard Dawkins, Derren Brown sort of thing.
Yeah, but that's science, surely, isn't it? It's just like you're evolved to make sense of things.
It's a story. They are telling you a story that you have chosen to take on board as.
But that is a repeatable and proven story.
Yeah, that's sort of.
It is a basis of fact, as a repeatable, proven.
It is a basis of evidence.
But it is. But sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, what science does is it creates a model of the world.
Yes.
That it says is explainable.
I would say it creates. I would say it defines.
Okay, it attempts to define.
Yeah.
A model of the world which it can explain.
Yeah.
It does not explain the world. It explains a model of the world which it has created.
Right.
And with every new bit of evidence, with every new theory that gets put forward, the model is refined.
Agreed.
But it will never, and I use my words carefully, it will never be able to exactly define the world as we see it.
Never.
It will still always be defining its model, however good that model becomes.
But surely
it's a bit like fractals, though, because when you keep looking down, there's something that bit more that still needs to be discovered.
Yeah.
Have you ever played the role-playing game Mage the Ascension?
I have heard of it. I have not played it, though.
That is basically all about around paradigms and how a major casts magic through manipulating reality on the basis of their belief of their paradigm is correct.
Mm-hmm. And there is. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
And there's kind of different factions. You've got the traditions, which are based around all the different religions and spiritualities, and then you kind of got the technocracy, which are all based on the science, like the biogenetics, social engineering, and so on. And then you also got like the bad guys, which are like based around like Satanism and worshipping of false gods, false idols, and It's very Cthulhu. But yeah, it's all based on how one person's vision of how reality is and should be.
And this is something that has been shown experimentally, that if an experimenter expects a positive result, then they will more likely get said positive result. Same with a negative result.
But that is also why you have
the placebo effect, and
that's exactly. But also when science, well, it's just not science, but when a theory is being proven, you not only have the initial experimenter doing the research, but you also have independent peer reviewers to actually come in there with a critical and neutral viewpoint. Say, can we prove this?
Critically and neutral, yes.
Usually, yes, they are. I don't know everyone. But yeah, I'm not gonna say yes. But the ones I have spoken to and the ones I know approach things with a firm understanding of the way of basically the laws of physics, and and they kind of come into okay, will this work? It'd be great if you could, but if not, hey ho.
The thing is, I am very mindful that we are, as human beings, still, we're not far off from when we were monkeys, in the grand scheme of the world, the world is 4.2 billion years old, and we are, anywhere between 200,000 and 300,000
We are
years.
evolved monkeys.
Yeah. So, in the grand scheme of things, we aren't sort of that far forward. There's billions of years of other things evolving that sort of before we came around. So yeah, of course we are not going to understand everything. And will we understand everything if we live, human beings carry on forever, then eventually maybe we will. But we are not going to. It's not going to be in my lifetime. It's not going to be in my children's lifetime. It's going to get to a point where I have to draw a line. In my mind, I have to draw a line, and it's I have to understand what I understand. And as much as I want these things to be true,
it's that thing that the CERN was created to actually find the Higgs boson, one of the smallest particles ever, and they found it, and then they also found out something even smaller.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and so I think we are going to get literally to the fractal effect, where you kind of keep going down, defining, but there's something that a little bit more that still needs to be defined.
Yeah. And I love that. I'm a stubborn person, but I think one of my better traits is if somebody turns around to me and proves me wrong, I'm very happy just to go, you know what? Okay, cool. I'll buy into that. And if science, history, I've got different sort of. I like reading histories that are unpopular because it's good to see what's on the other side of the coin and things. And as history evolves, because obviously there's different, history's written by the victors, and so revisions come in, and you read things and go, oh shit, I didn't know about that. I used to venerate the Spartans. The whole thing about Spartan machoism, and my father used to tell me stories about the Battle of Thermopylae and the Peloponnesian Wars and things like that, and I loved it. And then I started reading. Spartans are shitheads. They were, they had basically, they would murder children. They, not patricide, it's basically pederasty was institutionalized. They were.
Oh, and he's gone again.
Sir Isaac Newton was a bastard as well.
Yeah.
It's popular with the scientists.
Am I back yet? Am I back yet?
Yeah.
Am I back?
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. This OBS is when I'm going into a thing, it's going to kill you. But it's just you have these things where you have a belief in them, and then as time goes on, you go, you know what? That's not true. These guys were shitheads, and these these guys. We were talking about Cthulhu, so obviously Lovecraft was a racist, and you've got all these sort of things that you have to sort of. I think you have to accept this as time goes on and as humanity evolves. You have to accept the evolution as it goes along, and therefore that means things that you don't understand. Therefore, if somebody turned around to me and go, you know what, Matt, I can prove to you that gods exist, or I can prove to you that there is an afterlife and things, I would go, brilliant, awesome, because that's how you should be. Who's somebody who believes in science, or somebody who believes in, the truth, should accept things and not just dig.
Absolutely, that's
dig.
the scientific method.
Yeah, you should.
You have your model of the world, and when new evidence comes in, you alter it accordingly.
Exactly, and I'm all for that. Like I said, I can be stubborn, and I'll argue if I believe in something. If I think I've got the facts in my head, I will argue it blind. But if somebody has a good enough, and I do this all the time. One of my best friends is called John, and he's from a Catholic sort of background in Northern Ireland, and I'm from a sort of, my mother's Catholic, but she's English Catholic. My father's Protestant, so technically a Protestant background. And we have some really, both of us are atheists. And both of us don't, understand Northern Ireland very well because having lived there. But we have very long debates, and and both of us are very good at sort of, if somebody has a good point, of just going, you know what, you're right. And there's no harm in, and I think this is an issue you have with a lot of people. They feel that if they're proven wrong, it sort of diminishes them, or it makes them less of a person, or makes them feel like an idiot. Whereas I see it as, you know what, I was wrong. And I feel better for it now. I understand that. I think, like, this is a stupid example, but I was walking along with my girlfriend the other day, and I turned around to her, being this sort of like, yeah, I'm the know-it-all and everything. That's oilseed rape over there. And she went, no, it's not. And I went, yes, it is. And she went, that's not oilseed rape. And I said, it is oilseed rape. And then I went, I'll prove it to you. Google. Oh, right, you're right. It's not. It's such and such. And instead of kind of going, yeah, but it is, and arguing it blind, I went, you know what, you're right, and I'm sorry, and you learn something new every day, and I didn't take it as a slight to myself. I took it as I learned something that day, and I moved on. And I think people need to do that. People need to sort of have that view on things, that you should accept new things that are coming in. And sorry,
I always find that if you do, like you say, you fancy something new, and you've gone, okay, I accept I was wrong, and I enjoy doing that because I do a lot of quizzes. I do a hell of a lot of questions as well. So I like finding out things, especially stuff that I thought, I'm sure that was such and such. So I was like, no, I was completely wrong. And I think it helps yourself if you do learn something. If especially, I don't know, that maybe changes part of you as well. If there's something that you really thought, this is definitely whatever. And then you find out it's something else. You go, so if I thought that was wrong, what else have I got wrong? And it makes you evaluate quite a few things.
Exactly, it does. And, it's, I think it's an amazing feeling to find something new. And, you get to that point where, I remember the first time reading that, the book about Spartans, and it wasn't painting them in the best of lights. And I was just like, oh, right, so that's everything I had in my childhood sort of gone, because that's the one I was sort of, but then after you get that initial pain of going, I was wrong, you kind of go, wow, I've learned something new. It's something I can talk about, and I feel like I'm educated about that subject.
And suddenly the world opens up again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something that, so we need to crack those old beliefs open to be able to grow and find something bigger.
But this sort of brings us back to the argument, is that for you to learn, you need facts, and therefore, it's like I'm really bad at explaining myself. I can do, ironically, I'm dyslexic. I can write these things out a bit better than I can, but it's just trying to kind of articulate myself. I've got the words in the back of my head, and they get stuck. But it's like, You need facts to understand these things and go, right, I was wrong. To be wrong, you need a fact. Therefore, it has to be a fact. Therefore, you can't have something go, is that right? Could be, but that's not a fact. Therefore, I can't learn from that because I'm postulating that that's a possibility. It's not a fact, if you understand what I'm saying. It's like, with the ghost thing, it's like, I can't prove that there are ghosts. Nobody can currently prove to me that there are ghosts. Therefore, it's not. I'm not learning anything new by saying to myself, well, I could sort of assume that they exist, or I could sort of, maybe believe that they exist, or something like that. It doesn't give me that extra sort of opening of the world. But if somebody turns around to me.
The thing is that you say that. I would say, well, I can't prove that they don't exist. So why do I need to take a stance on it? Why do I need to close off one part of a world by saying they don't exist, rather than just say, I have an open mind. I don't know. There is nothing wrong in science by saying we don't know at this point.
No, I agree with that, actually. I think it's very easy just to sort of, especially, and I find myself falling into that sort of trap sometimes where you kind of go, I don't believe in something, when it's just as easy to go, I don't know. And therefore, maybe that's something I'll learn from today. It's just sort of, instead of kind of going, I don't believe in something, I just don't know.
I could say that I don't believe in Australia. I've never been there. There are people that say they come from there. There's TV programs that say they come from there.
I've met one of my mates comes from Australia, so I'm pretty confident. Reliable source.
They could just be saying that. And have you been to Australia? Do you know it's there?
Whole of England could be like Truman's Show. There might not be anything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I've been to America, so it's not so a bit more than.
How do we know you've been to America?
And also on that plane, how do you know that there wasn't just they weren't projecting stuff onto the windows to make it look?
But this is where you're getting in there lies madness.
But exactly. So to me, as I say, it's not a question of saying they don't exist because I have no evidence that they do. It's saying it's putting myself in the position of I don't know, therefore I will move forward with an open mind. But it's not so open that my brain is going to fall out, blah, blah, blah. It's just not wanting to take a position either side.
I think it's sort of, for me, it's more that I see so many sort of crackpot things, and I'm just like, that can be explained. If it could be explained, if it couldn't be explained and I couldn't explain it, then I go, well, you know what? Can't be explained. Therefore, like I said, I can't have a viewpoint on it because I've got no basis of fact to go for it and stuff. But everything currently that I've been shown can be explained in one way, shape, or form, and that's why maybe I shouldn't say I don't believe. I just say I just don't have. There's no facts for me to base a good.
There's insufficient supporting evidence.
Yes, insufficient supporting evidence to believe to buy into that. There's the part of me, like you said, I've said, that wants to believe it, and then there's the other part of me that's kind of going, well, there's no facts, you can't believe in it, but maybe I should take the middle ground in certain things and just go, you know what, there's no supporting evidence for this, therefore. I can't accept it, but I could, later on down the line, I don't know.
And part of all of this is challenging our assumptions and then challenging the assumptions behind those assumptions. You have said that your belief in belief comes from your background in Northern Ireland and so there is a whole mess, a whole net there about belief and about what belief means and what religion is and which colors the way that you look upon facts, belief, etc. now. So there is that challenge to your past to say, okay, can I untangle what happened 20 years ago, 25 years ago? To then that will then change the way that you think about belief now.
But it's I'm not saying I've got sort of, I don't look at life in a black and white way. I've always and I say this quite regularly. The world is not black and white. The world is grey. There's so much. There's so much within things. And it's ironic because I will say I don't believe in God and I don't believe in ghosts, which are black and white statements. Whereas, I do vigorously believe, and I'm using the word belief, that the world is grey because there's always little complexities within everything. We are a very complex, organism with a complex science behind it. and belief for me in certain ways is having belief in my father having belief in me, or me having belief in Pete or Jonjo, or me, my girlfriend's belief in me, or those things are to me acceptable behaviors. It's just when belief verges into the spiritual where it starts to become slightly more
dogma.
That's what sort of
dogma. It's religion.
Yeah, and that's where it is.
Religion takes a lot of forms.
Yeah,
whether it be political religion or scientific religion or anything else.
But then, even away from religion, belief can be many other things. Because you think thousands of years ago, people thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, or the world was flat. And then you discover, no, we're actually just a tiny little speck of a grander picture. And it's not even just that. People look at stuff from like from TV from so many years ago. The idea that you'd never have like a mobile device, you wouldn't be able to talk into a watch, you wouldn't have doors that automatically open. But eventually things do happen, things do come up. It's not just the belief in religion and what you feel around you, it's also belief in things that progress and things that obviously do come into modern day. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what will happen in terms of spiritual things, but we look at how technology has gone up, how we understood the world that's around us. Who's to say that one day, we don't find out spirits are real, we don't find out any of this is actually true on our own accord? We might one day discover, oh shit, there is a ghost, something like that.
I think it's for me, I think, and it is stemming back, you're a product of your environment. It is very much a case stemming back to my experience in Northern Ireland and how I've been brought up and how my life has panned out. I think belief is a great thing. And I'm very mindful that I said it was dangerous, but in certain people's hands, I have a friend. I've got a couple of friends who are very religious. There's one guy called Ali McNally who I went to school with, and he's super Christian, and he highlights. He said he posts pictures on his Instagram, highlights things in the Bible and stuff. And for me, the Bible is pure hypocrisy, and I've read it numerous times. I know the history behind it and stuff, and it doesn't sit right with me. But for him, it means something. But it means something to him, and it means something to his family. And he doesn't preach it. He doesn't sort of try and enforce it in something. It's for him, it's a personal thing. And he's amazing because he's the first person, if when my dad died or when stuff was going down, he'd message me, "You okay, man? How's things? You okay?" He'll talk to me about stuff, and he's so chilled, and he doesn't sort of buy into my atheist rants and stuff I have on Facebook and stuff. It's a personal thing for him, and so his belief is a good thing because it makes him, as he's a good person because of it, and it makes him feel good. It's when belief it percolates into society, and again, you got things like in Northern Ireland where it restricts human rights, and it restricts.
That's where you got the conflict of church and state, and you basically dogmatic faith again.
When I would say I'm all for. I would never mock somebody who says they believe in a ghost. I will argue with them that I don't think they exist, as we've tried here, but I will never mock I'll never mock them for it, because that's their personal belief, and it's not going to have any bearing on me or my children if I ever have children, or my family and stuff. But when beliefs start to go into policy and become, I believe in something, therefore, and that's when things start to sort of get a bit muddy for me, and that's where my sort of line starts to draw, and I'm like, this is where it's dangerous, and this is where the issue is, and that's why I'm like, this is where facts need to be and stuff. It's like, you can't have religion, like that thing in Northern Ireland where you're basically saying you can't have human rights. Women can't have choice because this book says you're not allowed to, and you can't get married to another person of the same sex because we believe in this, and it's just like stuff like that doesn't sit right with me. It really, it frustrates me, it annoys me because,
So I think we've basically come round to the fact that religion is a bad thing.
Yes, it is, and it's just
and I'm also thinking as well, we could release this as 2 separate podcasts. You know, we've got the first half as Geek Pride, and the second half is like religion.
We tried to we used to try to segment these podcasts, but I think it just got to the point where things would just move into them, and you just sort of you carried on. But yeah, it's just I have sort of strong beliefs in things, but it's more it's just hard to it's hard to explain. It's just sort of like I'm a very an emotional sort of guy, and I would I have this thing where deep down I want there to be this sort of thing that sort of guides you and stuff like this, but it's a hard one.
It does sound like there's a lot of disenchantment about the world wrapped up in there.
Yeah, it's just I in my mind, I'm a globalist. I believe in humanity evolving to its potential, to being better. To I'm not. Everybody sort of goes, humanity sucks, and it's like, yeah, we have some really bad points, but you know what? We do amazing things as well, and we can be better, and we can be better, and all it takes is us to sort of move forward, better in science, moving, always educating ourselves, and it's just when regressive things happen, like where the tribalism comes in and everybody's sort of trying to be sort of what they were 100 years ago and stuff. And it's just like, we're not those people. We as humans should move forward. We should evolve. We should be better. We should be a united force. And it's just sort of, you don't have to lose out in heritage or tradition and stuff like that to still be unified in as a race that could colonize the stars at one point, in some time in the future and stuff. It just it upsets me that would sort of and I see potential in human beings, whereas a lot of people just see dickheads, and it's like
I think I should take this opportunity now to obviously say again, sorry for the whole, like, not exactly saying it was live, David, and also sorry for the last hour or so where talking about anything really apart from Geek.
Well, what is Geek though? What is Geek, John? So it's just it's being sort of into something really sort of passionately.
All I'll say is that I've probably taken quite a few notes into a potential story for myself there, and and Matt, now that you've had your acting lesson as well, you may have to get in on this.
Yeah, well, that's why I love Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. So it's something that I can bring in that whole the part of me that kind of wants to. I can enact
the theater.
Yeah, the theater side of it. I love that. I just sort of I really love getting into as people know the text adventures we do. Like I feel I go all in with them and stuff, and it's just like because it's just like that part of me that's being sort of repressed down there sort of is able to come out and just kind of go, wow, this is happening, and it's great. It is great, but
Text adventures, that was gaming.
Yeah, text adventures. Yeah,
I used to program text adventures on GW Basic.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Amazing. Like we do basically mid. So if we have some downtime in a D&D game, or I need to get through sort of a middling part of story that we don't want to do in the stream, I'll do it via WhatsApp, and I'll basically do roles within the game, within the WhatsApp, to see how things go on. So basically, the last one we did is one of our characters died, and it was basically, so we had a whole storyline with one of the guys dying, and Pete's character basically trying to destroy the crystal which was housing him and stuff. And
well, I thought it was because the crystal had trapped his spirit, and I was trying to free it.
Okay, yeah.
But it's good stuff like that. It's great because you can really sort of evolve with it, and you get a lot of good story arc out of it, and it's because
I've still got to get on one of these nights. I've still got to, because I've never done Dungeons and Dragons. I've never actually played Dungeons and Dragons in my life because I never used to hang around with people that used to really get into a lot of geeky stuff, and I like, I used to watch Doctor Who, and I'll go, "Oh, did you see Doctor Who?" And everyone's going, "What the hell are you on about?" And then it was like Star Trek was the same thing. Even like when I used to look at like classic sci-fi, I used to really enjoy Blake Seven, and I didn't know anyone else. I didn't know anybody else who watched Blake Seven, and I remember watching the old videotapes about 4 or 5 times over. I absolutely loved that series. But like I said, no one I knew when I was 14, 13 years old, no one I knew had even heard of it. And like you go, "Oh, do you want to watch it?" And they go, "Nah." And especially when you say it's a videotape, and they go, "Oh, what? So I've got to rewind it?" Like, it's such a chore.
Kids don't know they're born these days.
No. Honestly, what's scary is that there's a friend of mine. Their child's only at 5 years old, and she tried introducing her to a cassette tape, and she said, "Here's the cassette." And she went, So how does the music come on this? There's no screen on it. And it's like, no, it's not an iPod. It's it's scary. And you think like, how technology does change. Even a mini disc player, I still got a mini disc player, which I absolutely love. And that was one of my favorite ways of listening to music. I showed that to someone and they went, "Oh, ain't these funny little computer discs that you used to, I went, no, they're floppy discs." He went, "What? How is this not a floppy disk?" I went, "Well, I'll give you a clue. Is it floppy?" "No." "Well, there you go."
3.5-inch floppy wasn't floppy. 5.25-inch floppy was floppy.
Oh yeah, that was a floppy disk. Yeah. God, that's old school, man. I still remember 14K modems and stuff.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, 14K modems. Oh, that's top of the line. That is.
All right. Like and DOS, having to type commands, having to type commands in to get to get into games.
I remember BASIC.
Yeah. I was BBC Basic.
Wow.
I was Dead Spectrum Basic.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
40K Spectrum. That's most one of my Word files now. Which put things into perspective a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it does. Yes. I mean, my dad will tell of the story of how they had to their computer room was massive at university, and they had to get time to do their punch cards to be able to. And then when he got to the office, when he ran his own business, the first computer had a room full of technology and 1 megabyte, a full megabyte of space.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Jesus.
Full megabyte, and that would have cost quite a lot in those.
Oh
days.
yeah.
I remember
scary.
I remember my first computer in university that my dad bought me, and it had 2 gigabytes of memory in it. I was like, "Holy shit, 2 gigabytes! That's madness! 2 gigabytes!" And I'm killing myself if I haven't got a couple of terabytes now. I'm just all right. In that lull, we've gone on for a long time. I'm just trying to figure out if this is currently the longest podcast we've had.
2.5 hours, quite possibly.
Yes, I'm just trying. I think Erica's was the winning. Let's see, hers is.
Yeah,
I think we've topped that now.
Yeah, we've definitely topped that. So you've got the record at the minute, Dave.
But you know what? I'd love it if Erica listens to it and she goes, "Well, hang on. We spent over an hour talking about Star Wars, but on this one, we were going into some real deep questions."
Yeah, I felt like therapy.
Oh, I tell you what, I definitely don't need
I felt like Dave was sitting there with a pen and paper, and sort of I'm sitting on the sofa, and he's just going, "So, tell me about your thought."
There was a little bit of that.
Amazing. Yeah. Dave, have you got any sort of websites or anything people should, or anything coming up that people should know about?
Well, so my website is davidault.co.uk, where you can find out a little bit about me. I don't really keep it very current, but it's there. You can find me on the No Sleep podcast, on Shadows at the Door, the podcast. We are just about to finish our 2nd season of British horror stories. Season 1 was basically just me doing all the narration. Season 2, we've finally got more people on so that I don't have to do any women's voices in a Monty Python style.
Oh.
Not dead yet.
He says he's not dead.
Not the Messiah.
He's a very naughty boy.
So yeah, Erica is a part of that. Erica, who is wonderful and lovely. And in fact, Erica and I, we have got up to some amazing things in the No Sleep podcast, including ripping out people's teeth. We were demons for a time. We've done a lot. Other places, you can hear me doing my first D&D, first and only so far D&D campaign in Dark Dice.
Nice.
So find that wherever you listen to podcasts. And there's various other things, which I'm probably going to... White Vault is another good one. I'm on seasons 1 and 2 of that. There are a lot of other things where you could probably find me, and I can't think of them at the moment. But you can definitely find me on Darker Projects. The Byron Chronicles was the very first thing that I started off with back in 2005, 2006, and it is still going. So that is again one of the oldest kind of things going. So yeah, there's a lot of me around. Certainly at the beginning of my whole stint as a voice actor, I was a tart. Given my voice to whoever wanted it, it was a good thing about being a Brit in a very American-dominated world. If they wanted someone with an agenda, someone mysterious, or someone who was going to end up being evil, it was a Brit, and so that's how I came to be.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Dave. I really, really super enjoyed this. There's nothing better I like to talk about is politics and religion.
At least we didn't get we touched on the politics a little bit, but yes.
Yeah. So yes, I really appreciate the time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you all very much.
So for me, I've been Matt Geary. With me tonight has been Peter Ray Allison.
Take care, everyone.
Jonjo Cosgrove.
See you all soon.
And special guest David Ault.
Cheery bye.
Bye.
Bye.